Honey, where are my socks? Honey, where are my socks? Honey, where...
Daddy, would you like some sausage? Daddy, would you like...
Fucker! You fucker! Fucker!
Oh!
Huh? What the f...
Hello again, everyone. This is Bionic Slime. I'm your online voice for reviews of your choice, and this is another installment of BS Reviews. This time I'll be reviewing the 6th installment in the infamous billion-dollar film franchise based on the popular books written by J.K. Rowling. I'm, of course, talking about the Harry Potter series, and this is the review for Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Harry Potter is brought to you by Warner Bros. Pictures and is directed by David Yates and written by Steve Kloves, and of course J.K. Rowling wrote the original novel. Stars the usual Potter cast: Daniel Radcliffe as Harry Potter, Rupert Grint as Ron Weasley, Emma Watson as Hermione Granger, Alan Rickman as Professor Severus Snape, Michael Gambon as Professor Albus Dumbledore, Tom Felton as Draco Malfoy, Jim Broadbent as Professor Horace Slughorn, and Bonnie Wright as Ginny Weasley. There's a lot of freaking characters in this movie, so I really couldn't list them all, so I tried to list the primary characters, so just bear with me. The plot of Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Dumbledore starts appearing to Harry more frequently and reveals to him that he has a special mission for him. He wants to convince a certain professor, a former professor named Horace Slughorn, to come back to Hogwarts in order to extract a special memory that he has kept locked inside his head, involving a secret meeting with then a young Voldemort when he worked back in Hogwarts as Tom Riddle. In the meantime, Harry discovers that it's spring fever on Hogwarts, and apparently everyone's in love with everyone else, including Ron's little sister Ginny, who apparently has quite the attraction for Harry. However, it also seems that in the absence of his father, Draco Malfoy has been requested by Lord Voldemort for a special mission. And now he must perform this special mission within Hogwarts, and it is up to Harry Potter and most notably Dumbledore to discover what Malfoy and Voldemort are planning and stop them, hopefully before it's too late. Review of the plot. This movie is very different because it really doesn't really focus much on the plot. This is more what you'd call the puberty book out of the Harry Potter franchise, because pretty much the entire film focuses on one thing: the emotions of the characters. All the other Harry Potter films have been very structured and strong in terms of storyline, but this one kind of lets up on it and kind of ignores it for a while, letting it develop secretly in the back corner there, while all the attention is focused on the horny teenagers that are smooching around, or snogging around, as they say in the film, with each other. So it's really hard to actually call this much of a plot, because it's basically a whole big romance thing. But I gotta say, despite the fact that it doesn't seem like much of a plot, this is actually extremely interesting, because for years we've been watching these kids grow up. And I don't think there's any other film franchise like that in the world that has 12 and 10-year-old kids starting from beginning to end in a film franchise where you watch them almost every year grow up more and more and more. And it's really fascinating, because we've been so, waterlogged by the heavy and intricate, complex storyline ever since Order of Phoenix, and ever since Voldemort really came back in Goblet of Fire. Things have gotten much more complicated, so things have gotten much more heavy. So now we get kind of a break with these young teenagers kind of going around developing themselves, and I find that very interesting. Well, it may not be as exciting, but it's definitely as compelling, and it shows just really how far these kids have grown, which really goes into the next one, which is to review the characters. I don't think I've really appreciated just how well these kids can really act until I saw having the spotlight focused directly on them and not the complex magical storyline going on in the background. We really get some excellent scenes with Rupert Grint and Emma Watson as Ron and Hermione. The relationship has various ups and downs that are finally further explored and much more complicated. We really see how romance is affecting everyone, particularly Daniel Radcliffe, who gives off a great performance here as Harry Potter. I really thought this was particularly special for him, because he's finally able to emote more, and he has much more reason to emote because he has so much emotional drama and love around him. I found that very interesting. I absolutely loved Snape in this film. I thought he was great. He finally got much more attention and real appreciation. He's a man of few words, as my dad says, but the words he does use, he makes it really stick, and you get enough of the character from what little he says, and yet his physical actions seem to speak much more for him. So that's real commending to the actor. Sorry, I can't speak tonight. Blah. But by far, I think probably the best guy who stood out here was Tom Felton, which was Draco Malfoy, who really just acted like a little penis in almost all of the Harry Potter films before, and never really gave Draco any kind of identity, personality, except that I'm a little bitch. But here, he really gives us an idea of what Draco is truly like, and just how good he can really show just how deeply conflicted this character is. I found it insanely fascinating what they did here with Draco Malfoy, and it would not have worked if Tom Felton had not really upped the ante for his performance in this film. I felt that he really wasn't doing much except being the pain in the ass, personality-wise, in other films, so it was nice here to see him really get into the deep heart of the story, and I absolutely loved Michael Gambon as Dumbledore. He's got a lot of screen time here, and luckily he makes good use of it with Harry and his own personal perfected acting skills. Review of the music and cinematography. Cinematography made this movie much more sinister and creepy. It's much more gothic and almost becoming more Tim Burton-like with the creepy way that Hogwarts has become. In fact, the place almost looks completely alien, from the bright golden red colored and flames, torches and ghosts busting around since the first couple of films. So I'm really impressed at how dark and twisted it's actually become. Music was really good. There's a lot of deep emotions in this film. As I said, and it really fits. It doesn't feel cheesy or corny or kiddie-ish. It really feels much more adult and mature. It's almost like everything around the film is maturing. It's like everything is following the same pattern of natural progression. And I like that because it shows that everything is following with them. It almost kind of stumbled when Harry Potter 2, and the Chamber of Secrets almost seemed to be a little more kiddish than the original one, Sorcerer's Stone. It kind of worried me, but it's definitely long since passed. And I really like the fact that this film series has had, in every sense, the acting, the music, the design, the story, has all become much more mature with a natural, easy, and enjoyable progression. It's not rushed. It's not too slowed down dumbed down for kids or adults. I really admire that in this film series. Negatives about the film. As I said, this is much more all on the emotions of the kids, and that is a good thing. However, the problem is they push the story too far back, and I think that ends up making it look a little bit more half-assed because you got so little actually going on, when in fact there is a great big deal of things going on. And actually the way they timed it, with the release of the trailers, it kind of feels like you're kind of cheated a little bit if you base it on the trailers, because they all heavily advertised it in theaters. This is going to be a big Voldemort flashback movie, but in fact it was not. There's maybe 1 or 2 scenes of him flashbacking because it wasn't as important, although the scene that they reveal of Voldemort's flashback 1 in particular is extremely important to the storyline. But the point is, I hated that they did that they made it seem like it was going to be a big secret behind the life of Voldemort thing, and I was just kind of annoyed that they did that. I don't like it when they had to cheat you to get to see the movie like that. The Disney movie Holes did something similar, actually. But probably the thing that most annoyed me was the overflowing of characters. There are people that were in there that didn't really explain, and they kind of rushed them. You have so much time worried about putting everyone who is already in there, such as Wormtail, Hagrid, and that, who are only there for a few seconds, and it's like, why the hell are they in there? Other times you bring in people who you don't know who the hell they are, and they don't bother introducing them except for little subtle hints on the sides, like this bad guy called Fenrir Greyback, where you have to watch really freaking carefully for the one poster just to even know who the hell he was. I almost missed it. Or like Professor Lupus's wife, who's there. I didn't know the hell he had a wife, but she's just there automatically when he's talking with Harry and the kids. So it was kind of annoying that they had so many people, both old and new, and they didn't really arrange them properly. You had so much time on the kids, which worked out for their acting performances, but for everyone else, it kind of felt they got cheated. I particularly also felt Jim Broadbent was kind of too similar to his role in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of Crystal Skull movie. He worked well in here, but it just felt like he was playing the same guy. Maybe that's how he acts, I don't know, but I kind of noticed that, and it was a little distracting. It's like it's the same character. But anywho. Final wrap-up. Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince is probably the most unique and unusual out of the Harry Potter films thus far. It is focused heavily much more on emotion and the romance of the kids, and I felt upset that so many of the other characters were overflowed and pushed in the back corner. That the storyline almost felt non-existent here, except for a few key elements. But in the long run, I guess it really worked that way. The movie really didn't need anything else other than those key elements revealed to keep things going on. We were delivered a plethora of excellent performances from actors all over. Tom Felton was excellent Draco Malfoy. You got great performances from Snape and Dumbledore, the main kids, the emotion, the romance, the romantic little antics going on. It was funny, it was cute, and it really showed the natural evolution of these characters from children to teens to adults and so on and so forth. I was very impressed with that. I think this movie nailed that better than any other film has thus far. I give Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince 4 stars out of 5. Well, that's all for now. This has been Bionic Slime for BS Reviews. Thank you for listening, and goodbye for now.